Hey guys, thank you for joining me here today. Pretty excited. I'm kind of a little bit bored, honestly. I've been sitting in this place in New York City that I call home. I love it dearly, but I'm ready to get out. Yeah. And we have my fellow shark, who I adore as a businessman and as an individual, joining us today, as you well know, Mark Cuban. So I'm going to be asking him the questions that are most important to me, the ones that are weighing on my mind, particularly having to do with small business. And I'm hoping that he sheds some light because I don't really think that anyone has the answers. But on the other hand, everybody has an opinion, and Mark has never been shy with his opinion. Yeah. So how are you guys doing today? In? Yep, we'll be covering that. We'll be touching on that SBA loans. I know there's a lot of ill content is the word about that. A lot of people looking for money didn't quite get the money. I've experienced that firsthand with my entrepreneurs. We'll talk a little bit about that. Yeah. Hey. Yes, and how are you doing too? Yeah, I'm happy. Thank you for sending me good wishes. Yeah, I'm tired of housework too. I've been doing way too much of it, and I've also learned from my husband and my daughter Kate that I am not a cook. Yeah. Hang on just a minute. We're going to get Mark on this call. Just a moment. Yeah. Here we go. Let me see. All right, let me try this here. Okay. I'll keep you busy talking here, right? Keep your comments coming in. Yeah. Yeah, no, I know. I'm very concerned as well. A lot of people are commenting about unemployment, not getting the hands on the money. Maybe we'll touch on that after I get my questions asked and answered right up on the front side. So we have Mark coming on right now, I think. Let's see what he looks like. He always looks casual. That's why I'm wearing a t-shirt today in honor of him. I hope he notices.
What's up,
Hey,
Barbara?
Mark. Hey, what's happening with you? Notice how I'm dressed today, Mark? I'm beating you at your own game.
Yeah, right. It's about time. Who the hell gets dressed up during quarantine?
Well, I get dressed up all the time to really look my best. You never even bother. And I thought, if he's not going to bother, I'm going to put on a t-shirt too.
About time. About
Yeah,
time.
right. Yeah. I miss you, Mark. I wish you were on the set right now. I feel
I
like I
know.
missed you in a long time.
You and me both. I can't wait.
Yeah,
It's
well,
time.
there's three things that have been on my mind that have been giving a lot of thought. And I thought, who better than the money man himself to answer these questions? And mostly because you're so clear in your communication and what you honestly think. So I thought I would get some questions that I keep hearing most often and pose them to you. The first one have to do with the SBA loans. I'm curious how you feel they rolled out and what might change in the future.
So the goal was great.
You thought the what?
The goal was great, right? Because
admirable, yes.
right. So when this hit, time was the most important criteria.
Mm-hmm.
We needed to get money in small businesses' hands and all businesses' hands as quickly as possible, right? So companies didn't lay people off.
Mm-hmm.
But they slowed it down. It went from immediate to let's do it through the banks to banks being banks, slowing down the program, and banks being banks, giving it to their best customers because why wouldn't they, right? And that kind of threw everything upside down. So then we go to the second tranche, and they made some adjustments. And I've been talking to the SBA and the Treasury, and they're both trying really, really hard. But they limited it so that banks can only offer so many applications per day, right, or per hour. Actually.
Another slowdown, yeah.
Right, but that's okay because it gave the smaller companies who are working with smaller banks a chance to apply. Yeah. So where we are right now is, it's still kind of a mess, right? But it's not too late to apply, whether you're an independent contractor or a small business, because I checked this morning and there's still money there and they're still processing applications. The bigger challenge now is how can you use the money and how does it help you? Because you've got these 8 weeks that you've got to use to bring everybody back. But if you can't open up, what's the point of bringing people back?
Yeah.
And
I'm surprised. I'm quite honestly surprised that hasn't gotten more attention, because even for the many entrepreneurs I work with from the Shark Tank investments, many of them don't have the capacity to open. The ones that have gotten the loans feel that they have to spend it quickly, whereas when they do open, that's when they'll need the money and they'll be running out. They're not excited about hiring employees that they can't use. It makes absolutely no sense.
Yeah, and the employees aren't happy either because they're making more money off of unemployment in a lot of cases. And if the businesses open up, then they have to go back to work, or they lose their unemployment. And so there's all these catch-22s that really have not been thought out. And those are some of the things that I'm trying to convey to the President's Council that I'm on. Now, I've said all these things, and they're listening because they actually have somebody who's assigned to me that I talk to almost every day.
Yeah, but it's the guy he's talking to listening. That's the real
Well, that's
question.
exactly right. That part I don't know. I haven't seen any of the changes.
You know what I would do, Mark Cuban? I would write a letter to the president, a little handwritten note, and have it delivered by a pigeon, and ask him to read the damn thing. Because I don't think he's listening much to whatever everybody's saying, but I feel a little better knowing your voice is in there somehow.
Yeah, no, I'm yelling. I'm not being quiet. And they know it too, because I'm banging on them every day. Because then there's part 3 to all this, and that's the forgiveness rules.
Yes.
Right? Because
they're still intact. They haven't changed the forgiveness rules at all on the second tranche.
Well, they modified them a tiny bit, right? Because they came out, what's his name? Mnuchin came out and said, if there's any fraud, you're going to jail. Right?
Oh, well, that's fair.
Well, no, it's fair, but the rules are still so broad that, you know, if your business is down 5%, but you have enough money in the bank to cover that 5%, is that considered fraud and you should not have applied? Or is it 20%? Is it 30%? You know, or is it only if you have no money, so you're punished for saving for a rainy day? Yeah. And so there's so many uncertainties that a lot of businesses are freaking out. And if you're an independent contractor or a 1099 employee, forget about it, right? And they're barely even processing because those folks don't really have banking relationships.
Yeah. You know what? I found a very interesting survey. I contacted all the businesses I invested in. There were 43 that wanted to apply for the loan. 26 actually did. And out of those 26, only 3 got the money. And the people who got the money were my most successful entrepreneurs. Not that they didn't need it, but they had the best banking relationship. They had a connection with the local bank, or they went to the big guys and got to the front of the line. But everyone else, it breaks my heart watching them wait for the money. And I don't think they've gotten it yet this week, and it's been out since Monday. So I'm hoping this turns out to be a little bit better than the first one.
Well, let me give a little piece of advice, right?
Yes.
And so I talked to some banks, and I talked to the SBA, and it's not against the rules to apply with more than one bank. It's only against the rules to take money from more than one loan. And so if there's a bank you've been working with for 25 years, 5 years, whatever, and you're not getting their attention, go find a small community bank and apply there as well. Work with them because they want your account. I mean, I was wrong on some things because I thought this would be great for banks, because this is the first time in the history of banking where you can tell somebody, I want to loan you money. And if you do these things like hiring your employees back, you don't have to pay it back.
It's a great bonus, yeah.
Yeah, and so it's just like, but the banks have to be banks. And I understand it because talking to some of them, they said back in 2010, when they were pushed to make loans to companies that were really struggling, they did. And then in 2012, when new politicians came on and the Tea Party movement came and everybody was trying to cut costs, they went back after the banks to try to disallow some of those loans.
Yeah, and the memories are long, yes. You know, Mark, a couple of my entrepreneurs applied to multiple banks. It wasn't that it was illegal or wrong to do that, but the banks themselves turned them away once they knew they had applied through another bank. I don't even know if they had the legal right to do that, but they didn't want to waste their time. So on that one point, I didn't find that to be my experience at all.
Well, it just depends on the bank, right? So if the second bank you're talking to really wanted the business, and that's typically the community banks. So, you know, some of the banks, Citizens Bank, Edmonds Bank, you know, Vista Bank, these are some little tiny banks that I'd never heard of before. Yeah. And if you follow my Twitter on M Cuban, you'll see a bunch of them pop up in there. And even some of the fintech companies that just do all the financial digital stuff. They're and I forget which ones have done the best, so I don't want to name names, but again, they're in my Twitter feed. They're been better at getting results and getting loans for people than the big banks.
Let me move on to your Texas opening. You're going to be in an interesting position opening tomorrow, I think, right?
Right.
What do you really think it's going to look like opening the different states? What's business going to look like? And what kind of a rebound will we have? How fast will it be? I feel like people are almost a bit Pollyanna-ish about what they're expecting to happen. And even though I'm in New York City and it's in lockdown, I see the Starbucks on the corner open. Most of the restaurants that can open right now for fast food aren't opening. They don't have the wherewithal to do it. And I'm beginning to think that people lay off people very quickly, but they're not going to be so quick to hire them back. Is that your impression? Or
Yeah.
Yeah.
So a couple things. One, they're not quick to hire them back because the employees don't want to be hired back.
Exactly.
Because they're getting more from unemployment, and they're actually lose more money and have to work. And so,
and they're not at risk at home, really.
Exactly right. And so that's one. Two, when you do the actual math, like in Dallas or in Texas, any business can do takeout and delivery, which I'm fine with, right? Because we know it works for restaurants, and so we all have been getting delivery and supporting local restaurants by getting more and more delivery. So we know that works. So I don't care if a hardware store does the exact same thing or any store does the exact same thing. So I think that's a good thing. And that should be national, whether it's New York, Dallas, or anywhere.
It's funny in New York, Mark, if I might mention, all the great restaurants that I regularly order takeout from, everybody does. It's like a third of what we eat in New York is takeout. They had their menus out there for about a week, and they all closed up, all claiming they couldn't make enough money on takeout. Just there weren't enough orders. People didn't trust getting the food from their kitchen into their own. And so we really were not able to do any despite.
That's interesting because I've talked to a bunch of different restaurants here that are actually making money on takeout, and in Chicago too. Now the rents in New York are obviously a lot higher, and employee costs are obviously a lot higher.
Yeah.
And so that bar is a lot tougher to reach. But how are you getting food now? Just grocery stores and making it, or are you getting anything
Grocery
delivered?
stores all deliver, and the highest rate of the virus here in New York is on grocery store workers. Yeah. And
Wow.
even when I go to the grocery stores, which I make a habit of doing, to choose my own fresh vegetables and meats at 7 in the morning, the truth of the matter is nobody's giving anybody 6 feet of space. Everybody's crowding each other, despite the fact that they're fairly empty. So it feels like a very tenuous way to live and to feed your family. And with
No, it's tough. Are you ordering are you ordering from any restaurants at all?
Very few, because Shake Shack still delivers, but very few restaurants are delivering in the city here. Yeah, it's kind of been closed down, even though they've been allowed open the whole time.
Yeah, because Dallas is the exact opposite. But
really,
the other part of it true is, and this is interesting because I just had a conversation with the city council in Dallas. Part of the challenges for New York, and it'll show up here in Dallas as we try to open up more, is how people get to work. Right. In New York, if you're going to work in a restaurant, you're not taking a car, right?
Absolutely.
You're taking the subway, and that's dangerous for your employees. And for a while, the subways were really crowded. I don't know if they still are.
Oh, they are very much so. The buses as well. Yeah.
So if they're crowded, then you're really putting your employees at risk. And that's a different scenario. Whereas with Dallas, particularly in the suburbs, most people are driving to work no matter what.
That makes a sizable difference. Yeah.
Right. And so that's huge. And so as we go forward here, I think tomorrow you'll see a lot of people who politically are trying to prove a point, and will go out and eat, and and then that'll wear off, right? Because hey, look at me. You'll see a lot of things on Instagram. You'll see crowded restaurants or patios. But the reality is, even for most businesses, opening up just 25%, it doesn't work financially. Because you've got to open up. And
you also need the employees to do it with.
Yeah, you need to do all these things. And so I don't know that all places will work up. I think companies that have a lot of 1099 employees, people who aren't getting unemployment, I think they'll be the first. So you'll see salons and nail salons and hair salons type things.
Have they been opened up in your state? Nail salons? Are they opening up? Wow.
Starting tomorrow.
The last place I'd go.
Well, but if somebody right? So if you get your hair cut by the same person all the time, and you trust them, and they and they only allow one person in at a time. Like at my grocery store, it's one in, one out, right? And they've been pretty good about social distancing. And the only weird part is if there's somebody without a mask or gloves and they're touching stuff, then you kind of freak out a little bit. Yeah. So, but we wipe everything down. My wife is a germaphobe, so she wipes everything down. I'm learning to be one. I'm learning quickly. But yeah, so those, I think you'll see an initial, everybody's happy, and you'll see a lot of interviews on TV and online. Oh, we're great. Business is great. And then 2 weeks from now, it'll all be different.
Yeah. Well, how long do you think it will really take to recover? I know it depends on the testing more than anything else. You're in a state that's trying to recover. How long really? What's your optimistic view?
I just think it's going to be different. I don't, recover. When will the GDP get back to where it was?
Forget about that. That's too broad a picture.
Yeah.
But people have some sense of normalcy. The kids go back to school.
I just think normal will be different. right? Just like what was for traveling after 9/11. You know, you went from one day just running to the airport, last second jumping on a plane, to you better get there 2 hours early. It just changed.
Yes. Good analogy.
Yeah, and I think the same thing's going to happen with schools. You know, and colleges, I don't know how they're going to pull it off, you know, because they're just kids who think they're indestructible, and you've got older professors. What are you going to do? Have kids go into the classrooms, but have the professors, you know, Zoom in or have an avatar or whatever, you know? I mean, but, you know, the other side of it is we're planning for the worst, hoping for the best. And there's no reason why the best can't happen. There's just as many odds that the probability is just as strong that the best will happen as the worst will happen.
What's your assessment of the best that could happen in a timetable?
I mean, I think we get vaccines in 6 months and get them out over the next 2 months, and the vaccines work enough for us to think, you know, even though this disease is a lot worse than the flu, the virus is a lot more impactful and hurtful than the flu, that we get the risk perspective down to about the flu.
But do you think we could really make it? Do you think we could make it as an economy?
Yeah.
8 months from now?
Yeah, I don't think we're going to be back to where we were 6 months ago. No, that's not what I'm saying. I'm just thinking we're on that path.
And where does your confidence come from?
In science, just looking at the science that I'm seeing, and, you know, in global scientists, that this is kind of like going to the moon or the Manhattan Project, you know, in World War II, where, you know, we just had to come up with solutions, period, end of story. And I don't think we're going to cure it where it'll never come back, but I do think it'll be quote unquote acceptable risk. And you never like to say that, but there's a whole lot of viruses that aren't curable, like the flu, right?
Yes,
a vaccine isn't 100%, you know, effective. Like herpes, right? Like lupus. There's all these viral problems that we deal with, and I think this will fall into that category. That's what I think is a good case, and I'm optimistic we'll get there.
I think it's going to be so dependent on how well we could test nationally, how many tests we could get out. LA just announced that every citizen in LA can be tested as often as they want. How that mayor pulled that off, I don't really know.
Yeah,
but I don't understand. I do believe the economy is really, the whole foundation is on testing and cure. And that's why I'm not quite as optimistic, really, in the short run, because I don't see a lot of organizational style in the federal government to get the testing done. Yeah.
No, that's a problem, obviously. The testing, look, we can argue when the testing should have started, but the work on the vaccine should have started the minute everybody realized this was a greater than zero chance of this pandemic happening.
Yes,
you know, and it didn't happen. And so we're paying the time price there. And in terms of the testing, yes, because that's what will build confidence as more and more people see that that their tests are negative, you know, but it also comes down to, can you catch it again? We still don't know that yet. Do you get any level of immunity? We still don't know that yet. But even if you can, even, you know, if unfortunately we can get sick a second time, which you can, like with the flu, right? You can still get the flu. 1, 2, some people are more susceptible than others. As long as we have the right therapy so that it's not a death sentence or your lungs aren't going to get blown out, right? But, you know, we can recover from it. Then I think we'll start to come up with new ways to create a new normal. So I don't think we try to recreate what America 1.0 was. I think we have these great entrepreneurs that we deal with. There's millions of potential entrepreneurs that are out there. Barb, this is the ultimate reset. You know, the deals we're going to see coming on Shark Tank in the future that are geared towards America 2.0 are going to be incredible. You know, there's a Katie or Jake or Alexis or Alyssa, our kids that are out there coming up with new ideas that we didn't even think of, because they get to start from scratch.
Yes,
and all these big companies, all these big companies, they have no advantage. You know, they're trying to protect their old businesses, right? Whereas if you're young and don't have anything to hold you back, nothing to lose, like Damon says, power of broke, you can go for the big stuff, right? There's going to be some amazing companies created out of this that I think, you know, will be different than what we're used to, but doesn't make it necessarily worse. It could be a lot better.
My mom used to say, you're too stupid to know any better when you don't have experience, and it's your best asset. And I wholeheartedly believe that.
When you got nothing to lose and you don't know what you don't know, it's the best.
It's dangerous, but bravery.
But what do you got to lose, right?
Nothing.
What's the worst thing that can happen? I mean, when I started companies, when you started companies, we were broke. And if if it didn't go right, we were still broke.
Yeah,
But
that's
we were right
not
back
so
where we
bad. We
started.
knew what broke was about, right? We didn't
Yeah,
mind.
absolutely.
Well, are you working at home, Mark, every
Yeah,
day?
yeah, every day.
What do you think? I'm a little concerned about the commercial real estate market because I'm always got my ear to the commercial market. My feeling is that my people are all working remotely. I'm working much more efficiently at home. I'm sure we'll go back to the office, but not in the same capacity in any regard, not 5 days a week. Are your people coming back? What's going to change in that? And what's the effect it's going to have on the commercial market? I think these landlords are going to be hit so hard when people start to renegotiate leases, don't renew large space, and get accustomed to having smaller space.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, like with the Mavs, we're already talking about, okay, who do we really need in the office anymore? Because we're still productive, you know, and people are finding out they're getting a lot more done in a lot less time. And you don't have to travel. You don't have to go out to lunch. You get done on your own schedule. You're there closer to your kids or whatever. And the bigger part is we're getting used to a sense of place with digital video, right? And so, you know, doing something like this, you know, I'm on a little phone right now, but if I'm on a big screen like over there, right, it's even bigger, right? And it seems like it's more personal, and it's like you're sitting across from them in a meeting. And so we'll be able to do a lot more with things like DocuSign and digital signatures and, you know, just exchange.
Which is already happening,
Yeah, which makes it so much easier. I mean, I like it better. And so in terms of commercial real estate, there'll be some people who want to do things the way they've always done it, but they'll have to respect social distancing. They'll have to have healthy buildings. And so the buildings that upgrade their HVAC, because, you know, there's some research that says that you can recirculate viruses, that if you don't, like at the Mavs locker room, we went to Vegas, right?
I'd like to be in that locker room again when the players are there. You showed it to me when nobody was there. What fun is that?
I know you wanted to be there after the game when they were taking showers, but that's a whole different question.
I'm a woman. What do you think? You disappointed me that day.
I know. I always disappoint you, Barb. But in any event, so we went to Vegas for our locker room. You know, in Vegas, on the floors, on the casino floors, they pump in oxygen to keep you alert and to keep you healthy. They use lighting to make you more alert. And so that you don't get tired. There's no clocks, and, you know, there's different fragrances. And so
I still say it smells terrible in Las Vegas. Every place I go, I hate it.
Well, but they try, right? The good ones try. Yeah. And so we brought them into our locker room, and I think smart commercial building managers will do the same thing. They'll talk about healthy buildings and how they can make your staff healthier than they were before. Now, you're not going to need as much space. You're not going to have as many people there, but you'll need more space per person. And so the balance, the balance is trying to figure out,
good point.
You know,
I hadn't thought about
you may not need to grow as quickly, right? Particularly at the beginning, and you may contract the number of people there, but you'll have more space available, and that might seem healthier than them working at home, because there's risk of working at home.
What about the other side? How about your employees? Mine, I'm not that anxious to come in for 5 days a week. I think
of course not.
I'll probably cut to a 2-day week. What will happen there? You'll let your people work at home?
Yeah, absolutely. If at all possible, just because who wants to drive or get on the subway or get on a train?
In traffic.
Deal with traffic. I mean, you literally, if it's a half an hour commute each way, one way or the other, that's an hour a week. That's 7 hours a week. That's 28 hours a month that you're adding to your, you know, to your schedule to just live your life. That's, you know, that's incredible. And so again, that's one of the positives that are going to come out of this. Now, all of a sudden I work, I'm as efficient as I was, but now I have another 28 hours a month, you know, with my family or to myself or to work on whatever I do. And so
I don't know. I spoke to your wife. She said she's very anxious to see you go back. Without
my kids. I'm just telling you.
Children too.
My wife and I thought we were in control of the Cuban family when this happened, but about 3 weeks in, the inmates took over the asylum. I mean, we have no say whatsoever. We can't even get them out of their room.
That's the treasure of this whole pandemic in my mind. Well, it's not always ideal, but you'll never have this time again is how I really feel. And I try to bear that in mind when I'm getting tired of making my next meal or doing the next load of laundry or mopping the floor. I'm like, this is terrible, but I bear this in mind, the beauty to it all.
Yeah, but see, and I'm sure you've given Katie and everybody chores, right? So
hardly.
Oh no.
I'm embarrassed. I'm a pushover as a mom. I'm a killer.
We have cleanup day.
Pushover as a mom.
They're watching me clean my bathroom and clean, you know, the toilet bowls, and I'm watching them do the same thing and sweep up and do things they've literally never done before. And so that is just so much joy to me.
Okay, we have a couple of questions. Do you have time for a question? The first
Yeah, of
one's
course.
for you. Jack from Queens, it looks like. I've got money in my pocket. I want to make a smart stock investment. What should I buy?
So first thing you do is make sure you have 9 months of rainy day fund, because this is crazy right now. And even before this, I would have said 6 months, because you could lose your job. There's 1,000 things that can happen. So have 9 months. And then if you think you want to invest in the market, then I would just do, 10% every quarter, because if it keeps on going up, okay, you're making money on it even as it goes up. Because I do believe in 5 years, it'll be higher than it is now. But if some reason, and I'm on this side of the coin, that it goes down again, that we test new lows, well, then your dollar cost averaging on the way down as well. And over the long term, you'll be okay either way. Don't just put it all in at once. Take a little bit every quarter and invest that way.
Okay, I think he's asking specifically even more what stocks should
What
he
stocks?
buy. He's
The
asking
only
for
two.
your picks.
So I'll tell you the stocks that I still own. I own Netflix, I own Amazon, I own Live Nation, and I own Las Vegas Sands Casino. Those are the 4 stocks I own, with Netflix and Amazon being my 2 long-term holdings, and Sands and Live Nation be the 2 I added.
And that's very recently. Those.
Yeah, that's been since all this hit. So when they really, like March, the end of March is when I bought them.
So if I move my stocks into those particular brands and lose money, I could come back and complain to you about it?
No, but I'll make you dinner.
Hey, big deal. I'll get my dinner elsewhere. I'd rather make the money on that, Okay. So here's one for me, I guess it is, because it's real estate. My husband wants to wait to buy our first house. I don't. Is it the right time? Well, she should know right off the bat. I'm sure you would agree with me that the woman is always right.
Always.
When it comes to matters of the heart and the home. Absolutely. I think waiting, in short, I would say, it's not the good time to wait, because if you wait, when the stampede comes, when the air clears, you're going to pay more for that house then than you're going to pay for it now. So now would be the time to really get entrenched in your local market, know what's going on, so that you could spot a great deal when you see it. Because if you're really well educated as to what's going on, when you see a good deal come across your desk, you know it. You see it right there, and you can pounce on it.
Yeah, and it doesn't even have to be a great deal in terms of reselling it. Because if it's the right house and you really love it, and it was at 100,000 before and now it's at 75, why wait?
That would be wonderful. Or even 90 is a good deal, I think. Even 10% off is a good deal, as long as you don't overpay for something. And exactly what you said, if you love it, it forgives all sins. But more importantly, the wife is always right. And so no need to even ask these questions. Just, are you the woman or the man? And we'll give you the answer, right?
Right.
Okay. Yeah. Okay, Mark. Well, that's it. I've used your time. I'm so happy you joined me, truly. And I'm so happy
Barb,
to
you know how
see
much I love you. You know I do anything
I love you
for
back, but don't tell my husband, don't tell your wife. Oh, whoa. One last question. How did I forget? I have to ask what everybody's asking. Is it true or is it not true? You're going to run for president.
I can't hear you, Barb. I lost your connection. I got to go. Sorry, Barb.
Yeah.
Gotta go.
Okay, well, let me tell the audience, he left, but I'm going to tell you right now. I asked his wife on his 60th birthday party at his house, is Mark really going to run for president? And she said, nah, I'm not going to let him. My money's on her. Okay, so I think I need to turn this off right now. Hey, by the way, thank you so much for coming. I hope you got a little of Mark's enthusiasm. I think, honestly, the secret to his success has as much to do with his wild-ass enthusiasm than it has to do with any one single thing he's ever done in his life. He's always this way. He's optimistic about everything. You might call him a fool, but he's a billionaire fool. Not so bad. All right, that's it. Okay, here we go.